Hi everybody, Happy New Year.
My work is in this too.
I'm delighted to see so many people here. It's great. And I'm really delighted to introduce Yao Li. She's a PhD candidate at UC Irvine, and she's going to talk to us about privacy and security today, about her dissertation work and her interests in general. The most interesting fact I can tell you about Yao is that she's my academic sibling, because her PhD advisor is also my PhD advisor. And another interesting fact is that she's also worked with another one of our academic siblings at Syracuse University. So we like to work within the family, so to speak. And you can hear about what her work has been about for the recent years.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming to my talk. My talk is about the impact of cultural and social context on users' privacy management. And again, my name is Yao Li. I'm currently a fifth-year PhD candidate in the Department of Informatics at the University of California, Irvine. And this is my advisor. It's also Samuel's advisor, Dr. Alfred Kopsa. He's a very supportive advisor, very nice person. And here is a brief history of my education. So before I go to Irvine, UC Irvine, I got my bachelor's degree in e-commerce from Beijing Foreign Studies Universities in China, and I got my master's degree in information management from Syracuse University. And yeah, this is my talk has 5 parts. First, I will introduce some background information about my research, and then 3 studies I have conducted during my PhD, and some future directions that I will focus in my future career. So privacy management is a very important part in our interaction with various technologies and is relevant to everyone's life. And generally, privacy is about our ability to control our personal information to others. And we don't make our personal information available to others all the time. In some situations, we want to make it available to others. In some situations, we may not want to. So here, the situation is a key because we manage our privacy according to the specific context. Here is an example that privacy is depending on the physical location, physical context. For example, when we are at home, we probably want to turn off the data collection by Internet of Things like location tracking, motion tracking, because home is a very private space, so we don't want other people to track us, our in-home activities. So we want to turn off the data collection to protect our privacy. But when we're in the public space, probably be okay to share our personal data with Internet of Things. Like we probably want to turn on the location tracking for purposes like navigation or security. So privacy management is depending on the physical context. And here is another example that privacy depends on the technologies. Like in the study, we found, users feel less concerned if their personal data is collected by mobile devices, and they have more concerns towards devices like cameras, smartwatch, and the virtual assistant, because these 3 devices may collect more aspects of our personal data, like our audio, video, biometric data. So this is a technical context. And privacy depends, sometimes our information sharing is depending on the type of social relationship that we are interacting with. For example, in this figure, we probably don't want to share that information with our boss, our employer. And in this figure, we probably don't want to share our Facebook information with our parents because we have different privacy preference for these 2 types of social relationships. If we unexpectedly share some information with them, it may bring some unintended consequences. And our privacy practices and strategies are also influenced by the cultural norms and the national legal system. This figure is in US, like in New York City, if the government wants to set up a camera in the public space, there need to be a very explicit notifications to inform the citizen that you are being monitored in this area. But this figure is in China, it's a different privacy norm that there's no notification of the monitoring. At least in my hometown, the government can use camera and even face recognition technologies in public space to monitor the people. So it's a different norm. So generally, the context plays a critical role in shaping our privacy attitude and behaviors, like the physical context, technical context, social context, cultural context. And it's important for our privacy researchers to understand exactly how users manage their privacy in different contexts. And I think this has very important implications on how we should design the privacy support in various technologies, because most existing privacy designs focusing on giving user comprehensive controls over what information they want to share or not, or focusing on like educating the users what is the potential consequences of information sharing. But such kind of price setting overload users with too many technical tasks, and they rarely change without users' intervention for different situations. So we want to make privacy configuration easier for users and more adaptive to the various contexts. And in order to do that, we need to understand what's the contextual impact of privacy management. So as a lot of previous work has focusing on the physical and technical context, like data collection method, location context, physical context, and the data collection data type in the data collection, I focus my research on social and cultural context. And I think that these two concepts are very complicated because our social and cultural context involve a lot of dimensions, makeups, and nuances. So I want to study these two contexts. And also, we are not necessarily under a single context. Different contexts may interact with each other. So part of my research is to explore the interaction between social and cultural contexts. Here are my big research questions. How do cultural and social contexts influence users' privacy management, and how do different contexts interact with each other? The first study is about the impact of cultural context on privacy decision making. And we published one paper in the Proceedings of Privacy Enhancing Technologies in 2017. And in this study, we focus on users' privacy decision making when they are asked to disclose their personal information to organizations. And we conduct this study in multiple countries to explore the possible cultural differences in the decision-making process. So we conducted a scenario-based online survey in 8 countries: Canada, China, Germany, United States, United Kingdom, Sweden, Australia, and India. And in total, we collected like more than 9,000. We recruit more than 9,000 participants, and in each of the countries, it's around like 1,200 participants. And in the survey, we collected their privacy attitude as well as their demographic informations. And in addition to that, we also present each participant's scenario. This is an example that, like, from my mobile device, I will provide my current location and contact list for a service provider. This service provider is a company with no location in my country. The service provider will use the information as I agree. It will also save me time or money. So the highlight parts are the factors that we manipulated in the scenarios. And I think totally we have more than 300 scenarios, and we present each participant 6 of them, and we collect their response, like acceptable or not acceptable. And we also use Hofstede's culture frameworks. So Hofstede's culture framework has 6 dimensions to measure the culture: power distance, individualism, masculinity, uncertainty avoidance, pragmatism, and indulgence. And we took the country score for each each of our 8 countries, like US scores 91 on individualism, and China scores like 20, which is a more collective country. I summarize like 4 findings here. The first finding is about the cultural the differences in data collection purposes, like why the organizations collect users' data. We found that, as I agree, is the most acceptable data collection purpose across all the countries. But for highly individual, the x-axis is the individualism and the y is the acceptability. For highly individualist country, customizing the options is more accepted than autonomously making decisions for me. But in collective country, those two purposes are kind of equally accepted. And this one is about the data collection entities. For highly individualistic countries, a service provider that I have an existing relationship with, or a service provider that I pay for service, are more acceptable because in those countries, people are maybe more comfortable with the contract-based relationship because they pay money, so they trust them more. But in collective countries like China and India, the government is more acceptable than other data collection entities. This slide is about the cultural differences in value exchange from data collection, which means like what kind of value users can get from the data collection. So for collective countries, a unique compelling value and benefit the community and saving me time or money are equally accepted. But for individualist country, benefit the community is less acceptable. This figure is about the cultural differences in terms of privacy attitudes towards third party. So the X is whether the third party is accountable for the data collection or not. And the Y is the acceptability. And the blue line here represents low individualistic country. And the red line is high, green line is medium. So for highly individualistic country, when the third-party accountability increase, their acceptability is also increasing. But for low individualist country, it's decreasing. So this may be interesting because normally when the third party is accountable, we probably don't want to share more. But it may be because that different country have, low individualist country have different definition and understanding about what third party is. And also, as the previous slide showed, they have more trust in the government. They are more willing to share information with government. So that may be one possible explanation. So in summary, we found that users' privacy decision-making differs across different cultures. And compared with the previous cross-cultural studies, we found very concrete privacy differences in users' privacy decision-making. Like users' privacy preference are very different in terms of the data collection entities, data collection purposes. And we think that this has implications for multinational organizations because more and more organizations are running their business globally, and they want to collect data from users in different countries. And we suggest them to customize their data collection strategies in different countries to match the differences in privacy preference. For example, if the people in this country are not comfortable with certain data collection method or data selection purposes, they should adjust that. And we also suggest that the privacy design, especially context-aware privacy, should consider the cultural context in the users, but according to the users, like the residence of the country residence or like their IP address, through which they can determine which country this user is from. So next is my second study. So in this study, I studied the social context of users' privacy management. And in this study, I not only examined the social impact on users' privacy management, I also found that the privacy configuration can influence users' social life, which in turn drive the users to adjust their privacy settings and the strategies. We published 2 papers in computer-supported collaborative work in 2018. So in this study, we examined 2 social media platforms. First one is Twitch, which is a very popular live streaming tool where users broadcast their gameplay to the public viewers in real time. And the second social media is WeChat, which is China's biggest social network with around like 1 billion monthly users. We found that in both of the social medias, there is a phenomenon called social context collapse. It means that different social contexts are pulled into a single context, and it may cause privacy issues as people will accidentally disclose their personal information to unwanted audience. For example, this is the Twitch interface. So the gameplay is broadcast here. This is the chat room for viewers to communicate with each other. So usually when we play games, our gameplay, our in-game actions and communications are viewed by ourselves, or by other players in the game, like our team members. But when stream on Twitch is also viewable by Twitch viewers that may include like strangers and children. So the social context changed in this situation, and the information sharing it will also make the information sharing change. And this is the interface of WeChat. The WeChat is like WhatsApp. It's a social network. Users can share a lot of information on their page, and we may have various social relationships in WeChat, like family, colleague, schoolmate. Some of the relationships are close, some of the relationships are weak. So we have different information sharing strategies for different types of social relationships. So my research question is, how do social SNS users manage their privacy in different social contexts? And we conducted 2 interview studies. The first one involved like 20 interviewees, and those are World of Warcraft players who had experience with Twitch. And the second interviews involved like 25 interviewees, and they are all WeChat users. And we conducted semantic analysis on our interview data. I summarized 2 major findings here. The first finding is about how social context impact the privacy management. And so this finding is from the Twitch study. We found that when users are streamed on the Twitch, their social context changed because they are not only interacting with the in-game players, but they are also disclosing to the Twitch viewers. So they are concerned about the norm conflicts. For example, this participant said that he feels restricted in terms of what he can say because he and his friends have their small group norm that they like to use vulgar language, just jokingly. But when it is streamed on Twitch, he feels like he needs to follow the Twitch community norm, in which that using vulgar language may offend people. So he is concerned about that, and he needs to adjust his information sharing strategies. Like he will probably avoid using vulgar language when he is streamed. And also, when users are in collective social context, they will also change their privacy management strategies. Like sometimes people play games in groups, and when they are playing groups in the team-based setting, they not only worried about their personal privacy, but they are also worried about the group privacy and the group impression. For example, this participant said that he had problem with streaming because his team can have drama that start with a turn off switch, and when it is streamed, it may bring unneeded pressure to the team, And he even described a specific story that a conflict was streamed on Twitch, and the viewers were like mocking their team, and so a lot of people left the team after that. So in this case, the participant is concerned about the group impression and privacy, and they probably need to work together collaboratively to manage their privacy. And the second finding is about how privacy configuration influence our social life. This finding is from the WeChat study that we found users can find out whether they are the target of someone's privacy setting by communicating with unimpacted users about someone's information sharing. For example, this participant said that he blocked a friend, and this friend talked with one of other friends and found out that he is blocked. And we found that such situations will influence the social interaction, will undermine the social relationships. For example, this participant said that someone blocked him and he found it out when he hung out with their mutual friends. And he had a very negative feeling about it because he felt that he's not that close to him, not trusting to him. They probably have a lot of discrepancies and he will keep his distance from him. So this quote is about a negative impact of privacy configurations on one's social life. So in summary, we found that users adjust their privacy setting in different social contexts, and compared with previous study, we found very concrete ways how users respond to the different social contexts, like when they are under multiple norms, how they handle the norm conflicts, and when users are under in the collective settings, how do they work together to manage privacy. We think that these nuances in the social context should be reflected in the privacy design. For example, the privacy settings can detect if there is a norm conflict or the users are under collective under group settings. And we also found that privacy configurations can cause negative consequences to users' social life. And because WeChat offers very fine-grained privacy settings, like it allow users to customize privacy settings as much as they want. But we still found the negative consequence to users' social life. So even when users are given fine-grained privacy controls, it's still not perfect. There are still problems, and we think that privacy designs should, be more elegant, be more subtle, because like in our offline interaction, if we want to keep ourselves private, we probably will act in a very polite way. We don't just shut people out very harsh. So I suggest, privacy settings should also be the case. It should be more elegant, more subtle, and more polite. Okay, this is my last study. I explore the interaction between culture and context and social context. I have 2 journal papers under review, and in this study, I examined 2 social factors across different countries. The first one is the social norms of information sharing. It means but everyone keeps sharing. I feel like I am expected to share more as well. Like my privacy management will be influenced by the norms, and the social relationship will also influence our privacy management. So we conducted 2 survey studies. The first one recruited more than 1,300 survey respondents, Facebook users from US, Singapore, and Korea. And in this survey, we collect their privacy management strategies, their privacy concerns, and the social norm of data sharing. And in the second survey, we have around 800 survey respondents, respondents from Korea, US and Korea are Facebook users, and those from China are WeChat users. And we collected their friend request acceptance, their information disclosure, and we manipulate different types of online social relationships. In the first finding, we found we focus on the social norm of information sharing, and our dependent variable are privacy concern, collaborative strategy, corrective strategies, preventive strategy, and the information control strategies. All these strategies are privacy management strategies, but they focus on different aspects of privacy management. And the independent variable is social norms. And we compare the effect of social norm across the three countries. We found that in US, when users seeing that other people are increasingly sharing their personal information on Facebook, their privacy concern will increase, and they will adopt more significantly more collaborative strategies and less information control strategies. But in countries like in Singapore and Korea, the participants' privacy concerns are decreasing, and they will, slightly adopt some collaborative strategies, but significantly less information control strategies. So here is the interesting thing, because people in different countries react very differently if the social norm change. It's probably because US is an individualist country, so when they perceive the social norm, they also care about their own personal privacy and interest, so they have more concern, so they adopt more collaborative strategies. But they want to follow the social norm, so less information control strategies. But for participants, Singapore and Korea are more collective countries, so they'll be like, oh, okay, I want to follow the group norm, so I should trust the people in my group, so they have less privacy. And that's just a possible explanation, because we did not measure their individualism in this study, which we will explore more in the future work. And in the second finding, we focus on the online social relationships, and here is our model. These are the dependent variables: friendship acceptance, demographic information disclosure like name, email, and contact information. And social information disclosure means like our opinion, our favorite books, movies, and so on. And this is the independent variable. These are dependent variable. This is independent variable, and we divide it into 6 categories. Whether this social relationship is a known relationship, whether this relationship is from the same Facebook group or the same city, or have mutual friends, or in the same college, or if he posts a lot of interesting things. And we found that in Korea and China, they are more likely to accept known relationships, and they are more likely to disclose to known relationships, and also relationship with mutual friends and in the same college. These numbers are bigger than these numbers. So it means like in China and Korea, people are more funded, more acceptable for their existing social relationships, and they don't find it acceptable for unfamiliar social relationships. But for US, they also have strong willing to accept non-relationship, but they're also very open-minded to unfamiliar social relationships. This may be because they want to expand their social network and join more social groups. So generally, we found that users perceive their social context differently in different countries in terms of privacy management practices. So for privacy designs, privacy design should consider the social factors differently in different culture. We cannot just assume that the social impact is same across all cultures. And also, it's important to consider the interaction between different contexts. Yes. So in the next session, I will talk about my future directions. First, I want to explore the contextual factors in emerging technologies like Internet of Things, smart home, smart city, and so on, because these technologies are becoming increasingly popular, and their contexts are different from social media or organizational data collection. The smart home, for example, we consider our home as a very private space, so the contextual impact may be it will be completely different. And I also want to explore the individual differences in the contextual impact, because people in the same context may react differently. Like for users who have a high level of privacy attitude, who have a high level of privacy concerns, the context impact may be different from people with a low level privacy concerns. And I also want to propose private designs that adapted to the different social and cultural contexts based on my previous findings. So particularly, I want to explore like how should the privacy settings capture the social and cultural context, the different dimensions of social and cultural context. And more importantly, if we want to make privacy design context aware, it means that we need to collect a lot of contextual information from the users. So do users have concern about that? Like provide their information to get better privacy support. So I want to explore that topics in my future work. I see it's on the top. Thank you very much. If you have any questions or comments.
Can you go back to the slide that you categorize different? Is one of the cultures that you did surveys on the different categories in different countries?
Oh, okay. This one?
Well, is the table one? Yeah. How do you come up with the roles?
Oh, sorry. This is from literature. It's existing.
Oh, okay.
It's by Hofstede. I think these 6 dimensions are developed in like 1990s, and he original. So these 6 dimensions. So Hofstede did a very large-scale study in IBM, in IBM branches in different countries, to conclude that these 6 dimensions can mostly tell the cultural differences on the country level. So I borrowed his cultural frameworks, but because his framework is kind of old, and we also use in this paper we also use other cultural frameworks like Schwartz cultural frameworks, and the most recent cultural frameworks is below. They also have like different dimensions, and we compare, and we found the findings are very similar. Yeah.
I'm wondering what is the genealogy of what is the theory that they use to separate into different characters? Like what is the theory of culture?
So
from what discipline, for example?
His is a like cross-cultural social psychology. So he had a survey in different branches of IBM around the world, and then he conducted a set of factor analysis, and then the factor analysis showed that these 6 dimensions are the major factors from the factor analysis that can distinguish cultures, national cultures. Yeah. And these scores are also from his work.
Mm-hmm.
It went from like 0 to 100. Yeah, 100 means very high on that dimension. Yeah. Sorry.
So the large-scale study that you conducted, was that in the respective countries? Was that in the local language?
So this one?
Yeah.
What was that in?
Was the Chinese study done in Chinese, German study done in German?
Yes.
So what was the language for India?
Oh, that's the limitation, because in India we use English, and we know that it's a limitation because part of India used Indian. Yeah, that's a limitation of our study, because we did not go to India to collect the response, but we work with Ipsos, which is a marketing company, and they have like native speakers to translate our survey. Yeah.
In all of the countries you have?
Yeah, and I think in Canada it's interesting. But in Canada they use both English and French, and in China it's Chinese Mandarin. Germany is German. United Kingdom English. Sweden I think is Sweden, and Australia English. India English. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, I have a question. Why did you choose in the study 3?
Okay.
And why did you choose Korea and China and United States? There's reason.
Okay. So in this first study, we collect. Let me see. We conducted in U.S., Singapore, and Korea because U.S. is the culture of U.S. is very different from that of Singapore and Korea, and the culture of Singapore is also slightly different from Korea.
So it's like versus East.
Yeah.
East country. And
Yeah, it's like collective countries and individualist countries because individualism is considered to be the major cultural differences according to the cross-cultural studies. So we select these three countries based on that, like Singapore and Korea, are considered more collective countries, and US is more individualist. And for this study, we want to choose different countries, but we have like more access to US, Korea, and Chinese participants. But it's also based on the same standard that Korea and China are more collective countries, and US is more individualist countries. We hope to conduct our study in more countries in future, but yeah.
Because I think the first one and the third one is also you said about cultural difference, but I think that sometimes it's just a wealthy country and it's just developing country. Like a wealthy country, they have it more like stable and then they're concerned about privacy. And the developing country, of course, they just earning money is their main goal, so they're less concerned about privacy. It's the same like low income and high income. I'm wondering, it's gonna be fun to like compare the U.S. and the United Kingdom because the United Kingdom is a really independent country, but what I know is that is the most country have a lot of CCTVs in their country. The number one CCTV is United Kingdom. So
yeah, that would be an interesting question. So
actually, I was having a similar thought of. So in England, the idea of having a bajillion CCTVs around is a norm, but a vehicle driving around and taking pictures at all angles because it's mapping. They have all these stories of whole villages chasing the vehicles out or blocking them. Whereas in the U.S., the vehicles with all the things around them are driving around, nobody's stopping them. But if we were to put a police officer in that vehicle, if we were to have that as a government-controlled vehicle, you'd have that same burn down the town moment in the society, and it's an interesting flip in how you view the exact same technology.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's a very interesting point. Actually, when we choose a country, we consider the economic factors, like US, Singapore, and Korea. They have like similar information infrastructures in the local, and also their GDP. It's not that different. Like we consider that differences. And in the first study, we sample. I'm not going to find it. We have like 8 countries, and in that model, we actually control the income. Yeah, and we also think these 8 countries represent like the major parts of the information privacy policies, and they also have different legal systems, so we consider that. But yeah, I think United Kingdom will be a good place to conduct this kind of cross-cultural privacy study. Thank you very much.
I have a very basic question that I'm just curious about in terms of cultural differences. I wonder if the younger generation across all these countries are becoming more individualistic as a result of this use of social media. So I'm just curious if you know about any cultural differences by age, or does this collectivist versus individualist disparity become a lot less when you look at teenagers or young adults?
In one of my ongoing projects, like we collaborate with projects to collect data from different countries, and we intendedly ask them to recruit participants in all different ages, and even senior participants. And in that particular study, we actually use a set of culture questions to measure their individualism and collectivism, we found, yes, for the younger generation, younger population in countries like China and Korea, they have higher individualism than in US, and they also have higher collectivism. So it's very interesting that the younger generation, it's not what we thought, like China is collectivism, US is individualism, but kind of like mixed up. So we are still exploring that data, and we want to see if that has any influence on privacy strategies.
I have a question regarding your third study about the interaction between culture and social context. You really never defined what is a cultural context, what is a social context, because it seems to me that what you're studying is actually people from different cultural contexts. They tend to have different behavior or attitudes when in terms of choosing, like in terms of privacy management. Why do you call that a social context?
So the social context is like how we, like in our interaction with people, interpersonal interaction is about that aspect.
But that's how we interact with people's like behavior or attitude, not the context. Like the context is, for example, I'm in a classroom and this is talk, this is a whole context. I'm not supposed to say anything, I don't know, like political incorrect. This is a context. But my behavior is influenced by this context. Right.
I think so my context, the context in my study is like a broader context. It's like how to say, like the way if in terms of social context, like the way we interact with people, like if we interact with different people, that will influence our attitude or behaviors, right?
That's a context.
Yes, but the cultural context in my study is limited to national culture. It's not like other level culture. So yeah, it's like national culture context. Am I
I understand the culture part, but I just don't really understand the social context, because what they're studying is actually inclination of attitudes and behaviors rather than the context itself.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. So I would say the social factors in context is more about like interpersonal interaction aspect, that aspect. Yeah, but yeah, that's a good question.
You show a diagram of privacy in different contexts. Is that based on any literature or just?
Yeah. Yes, I did some literature review. Like I know that one. So that one is, this figure is made by myself. I summarized still based on my literature review. I mean, there may be more context, but so far, like I have 3 papers in physical context. That's the first example, so this study is discussing about the physical context and the technical context. Yeah, and my study is about social context and cultural context. But I mean, there can be more context.
So you mentioned, like from one of your studies, it would be interesting to have more subtle privacy mechanisms. That sounded interesting. So do you have any examples or just suggestions of how you might design, I don't know, I'm just thinking like Facebook or whatever else, these social media platforms? What could be done differently for different cultures that are kind of subtle the way you described it?
So we haven't examined this in different cultures, but just for the social context, because in our first finding, we found the norm conflicts and collective settings. So perhaps the privacy design can have some features to support the collaborative privacy management. Like in the live stream example, they can enable each member of the group to do something about their information sharing, to have some autonomy over their information sharing. Like they can blur their voice or they can blur their gameplay if someone is streaming. And for the how to make privacy setting more subtle or elegant. Think, one example can be the privacy setting. When user configure their privacy setting, it can inform the users that, this person had a lot of mutual friends with you, so you probably want to know that. He probably will know you made some privacy restrictions about him. And yeah, and also the interface should be more subtle. Like, you can't just make user to find they are being blocked by someone through the interface. Yeah, that's some examples.
A comment on your question. I read it from Paul Dorsch, actually from UC Irvine.
Yeah.
He wrote about lying as privacy. So instead of thinking of it in the context of social media, instead of blocking someone by making everything disappear, you lie about something instead to pretend that it is there when it's not there, or when it's not true. That would be one more subtle way, and a more maybe culturally fit than just blocking, for example. So but I have another question regarding the list of countries that have been selected to do the study. I feel like because the countries that have been selected are mostly Western country, or countries that are affected more by globalization than let's say Southeast Asian country that are not industrialized in the same level. So I'm kind of skeptical about this idea of that cultural difference affects so much, because especially the new generation growing up with technology, and this technology has a certain restriction that, let's say you want to use Facebook, you are exposed to the same interface, you're exposed to the same privacy setting, and it also changes the way that you think about what privacy means. And it just because the political ideology or the cultural ideology in the background is one thing, doesn't mean that it will be the same when we are exposed to technology, because technology can emerge from a different we can see technology as separate from what we see selves or what we see culture. So I'm skeptical that when it comes to actually using technology, it would be that much different, because eventually Facebook, it's way reductive. It gives you way few choice, and it influences the way we think about what privacy means as well. So I think the connection that needs to be made between ideology or what you call culture, whether that immediately implies the same within the context of technology would be obvious. I think that's something to investigate more, to make that connection more more obvious.
Yeah, that's true. So just a point. Sorry. So I think one possible solution is to conduct more in-depth study in different culture. Like, I read some papers about conduct privacy study in a particular country, to find how the local people perceive privacy differently. Maybe people just have very different conceptualization about privacy. So I think that will be one way. Yeah, but anyway, it's an interesting point. Yeah,
also, like privacy of what, privacy against what.
Yeah,
those are also
against,
very important in different applications, different
Yeah.
platforms.
Yeah, thank you.
If nobody else in the room has a question, I think one of our online people had a question. Let's see if this is going to work. Go ahead and try. Ask your question.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, barely.
Yes.
You better yell.
Okay, so thank you so much for your presentation, and I'm really impressed with the breadth of the research and how you have gone to different countries. One of the things I do want to mention is, for example, the cultural differences do exist and they impact somebody's privacy behavior. For example, Facebook has the profile picture protection, and as per my knowledge, it's only deployed in India as a beta testing, because there was an incident where people used to crop the image of an individual from their display picture, though it was only friends, and then they used to morph those pictures, and there have been suicide cases on those particular incidents. So on that, I have a question. Have you looked into, say, suppose people who primarily belong to a different country but now are settled in a different place? Have you looked into their cultural expectation from their online activities? Because, for example, I'm from India, but since this deployment happened when I was in the US, so I cannot protect my display picture since they track the IP address.
Yeah, I think that will be a very interesting future direction to explore because I haven't looked into that. But you know, one direction can be like people people travel around the world and they probably visited in a place that is different from the place that he was born. So like he is influenced by multiple cultures and how did he manage privacy in this such kind of situation. And also the thing he mentioned, the privacy setting is like different, is employed differently in different countries. So when he is using that, like the Facebook, how would he? I think that would be a very interesting future direction to explore. But yeah, I think so.
When I went to a reunion and my wife had a friend who was from the U.S., but she married a man in Japan and has lived in Japan for 25 years. When she came to the class reunion, she said in front of a whole group of people, take no pictures of me and don't post anything about me being here because there's a cultural implication of me being here that could reflect poorly upon my husband's business. And so I need to not be here, everybody. And that none of us had any idea that that was, an issue. We didn't know, and it was about somebody living in between two cultures.
Yeah, I think that implicates that the privacy settings should be designed differently in different countries because apparently the privacy norms in different countries are not the same. But currently, like when I examine Facebook, for example, I look at its English version and the version in Hong Kong and version in Korea. I found like the privacy are mostly the same. There are only like slight differences. So I think that is one thing that the Facebook should pay attention. They should care about the cultural differences, especially like Facebook is a multinational companies. It's available in many countries. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have another quick question though. When you were looking into the WeChat, I know I have talked with a couple of my friends in China and they use WeChat for, say, suppose monetary transactions as well. But when I have discussed, WeChat was also there in India, or it's still there, but we have different usage of it. So when you were exploring like Korean or Chinese population, have you seen their concern over like monetary transactions over WeChat?
Okay. Oh, we don't have that question in our interviews. That we did not ask about the monetary transaction, but I think this is a very popular field, like mobile transactions. Like people make monetary transactions through their mobile devices. I think that will be a interesting research area, like study this cross culturally. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions? Oh, one more.
No one else because okay. Well, I mean, personally, I would not model culture by country because that is very essentializing, and also probably when you think of culture, what cultures mean is different from ethnicity means, right? For example, when you think of campus culture, international students and U.S. American students probably share more than in different. What am I going with this? But you know what I mean. So and I think scholars in SEI have been there is like a third wave of paradigm shift in SEI, right? Of not modeling culture in by country or by ethnicity, but by embodied interaction, for example. I'm wondering, and I think this is still new in security as well, in how do we conceptualize culture in a more interpretative way, borrowing theory of culture from anthropology, for example, where culture is it's a language basically, web of meaning. And how would we be able to do that in security? How do we think of security in terms of side of cultural production, for example? What does security itself mean for culture? You know, as opposed to security as something that culture must constrict or you know something that are more integrated than adversarial. I think that would be interesting. And modeling culture in the embodied interaction, so in an essentialist notion or a nationalistic notion.
Yeah, I think culture is like it's a collective concept. You know, it's like we can have different level of groups. Like if we are in a small group, we have our small group culture, and we have like organizational culture.
Right.
Just my study is on the country level. Yeah, it's just like one aspect of culture. Yeah, I admit that there are like different definition of culture. Yeah, it will be very interesting to explore the privacy and security issues in different level of culture. Yeah.
And what individuals define as culture is also different. That would also, I guess, be a part of future work.
Yeah.
That you think of individuals.
Yes.
Context.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.